on FFT in 5. Adam and Dave here. Here we go. Number 1 is Joe Burrow. Yes, please. We need a big bounce back from him.
We started to see him bounce back last year, 23.6 fantasy points per game from week 5. That's when he started to look more like himself until he got hurt against Baltimore in week 11. So it's a 6-game sample. Remember, in 2022, he averaged 26.3 fantasy points per game. That's the ceiling that we're chasing with Joe Burrow. And he's coming off the board as like the 6th QB. So there's definitely good value in getting Burrow, hoping for that bounce back year. I even love the addition of Jermaine Burton to that passing game. I think that if Burrow is healthy, which, I mean, we can't really say that very often because every offseason and into the training camp period, he's beat up. But if he's not beat up this year, he stays healthy, offensive line protects him better, he could be outstanding.
Yeah, there are just not that many games in his career where Burrow, Chase, and Higgins have all been fully healthy, playing a full game, not leaving early. But when that happens, he is so good. Probably should be the number 4 or 5 quarterback taken based on what he's done in those games. All right, next up we have Josh Jacobs, who went from being the truly elite guy in 2022 to a truly frustrating guy in 2023.
It's almost like he played for money in 2022 and did a great job with it. And then in 2023 went back to being who he was. Averaged 13.9 PPR points per game in 2023. He had 11 games with 15 or more touches. He averaged 15.1 PPR points in those games, scored 6 touchdowns, 3 with 100 plus yards. It really wasn't a good year for Jacobs, but I love where he landed in Green Bay. I still think he's going to be the feature back there. I still expect him to get 15 plus touches a game on the regular. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He'll be the guy at the goal line. I am not worried about A.J. Dillon. I'm more worried about Marshawn Lloyd than I am A.J. Dillon, but I'm mostly a believer that Josh Jacobs can at least be right around where he was last year as a floor. So right around 14 fantasy points per game. That's where he was in 2019, 2020, 2021. And then he had the breakout year in 2022. Maybe he can push for 15 PPR points per game as the lead back in Green Bay's awesome offense.
Jacobs was the 17th best running back per game last year, but after the first 3 games, he was a little bit better. He was RB 15 per game. The first 3 games were absolutely horrible for him. Remember, he was a holdout.
He held that right, and that absolutely set him back last year. He won't hold out this year.
All right, Dave, someone in the chat says, I think Cooper Kupp will have a good bounce back season, and you agree, right?
I do agree, and you're easily able to draft him much lower than where we were drafting him at this time last year. Remember, he was one of the elite fantasy wide receivers at this time last year, and then he got hurt to begin training camp, didn't really come out of it well, ultimately averaged 13.7 PPR points per game. Very boomer bust. He had 4 games with 19 plus, 7 with 12.7 or fewer PPR points per game. But if you take out the week 11 game, he played just 27% of the snaps in. He averaged 14.8 PPR points on 8.6 targets per game over 11 games. And that number went to 16.2 PPR points per game in his final 3. And he was getting 9 targets per game in his final 4 games. I think he can get back to 9 targets per game, getting a wide receiver that can do that in like round 3, round 4, round 5, somewhere in that big range. It's a steal for Cooper Kupp. And you know what his upside is: 22 or more PPR points per game in 2023 or 2022 rather, and in 2021.
Give me a 2-for-1. Stephon Diggs, Naji Harris.
So Diggs is a lot easier to buy back into because he only had a bad half a season in Buffalo last year. When they changed offensive coordinators, it felt like they ran the ball just a little bit more and that they spread the ball around a little bit more. Diggs is now, dare I say, in a better offense in Houston. CJ Stroud, not necessarily a better quarterback than Josh Allen. I'm not ready to go there yet, but just the fact that he's able to be in this offense that's made great things out of Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Now he's got to share the field with them. I'm worried about the target volume, but I still think that Diggs is capable of being a good wide receiver and a good producer for fantasy. So I wouldn't take the last impression that we have of Stephon Diggs and carry that into 2024 drafts. And you're getting him at a bit of a discount. Najee's unpopular. No one wants to deal with him. He's had a couple of good half seasons over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, he wasn't healthy. When he did get healthy, he started to score more. His fantasy production went up. Last year, after the offensive coordinator got fired in Pittsburgh, his final 7 games, 13.9 PPR points per game, scored a little bit more often. I think that that's what you're looking for from Najee Harris, and it helps Harris that Arthur Smith is now the play caller in Pittsburgh. This is a team that improved their offensive line. They want to run the football more. And last year, Mike Tomlin did not want to hand over the running back reins to Jaylen Warren. I hated that personally, but Najee Harris benefited from it. I think he will continue to benefit. We talked on our Wednesday show, Adam, about running backs that you kind of settle for when you do a 0 RB build. I think Najee is absolutely in that range of RB2 guys that you'll look at in round, let's call it round 6, where you'll be happy to have him as your starter because you bulked up at wide receiver, at tight end, other positions, and you waited a little bit on running back.
Thank you to Dave Richard. I am Adam Azer. This is Fantasy Football Today in 5, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.